All right, well, hello everyone. Welcome to session number 5 on sustainability and green strategies. This is the 5th session of 7, and the 7 sessions comprise the virtual workshop number 2. Appreciate y'all all coming on a Friday afternoon, 5 o'clock. Next slide, please. My name's John Schrader. I'm going to be presenting with Mahdi Ahmed. We're both with JHB Architects and Urban Design. We are the architecture and urban design firm that did the redevelopment of Paldo into Brookside with Columbia Residential and Athens Housing Authority. So some of y'all are familiar with that. Our moderator is Ian Kara with Columbia Residential. He's going to be, while we're presenting, he's going to be checking on questions, looking at the chat box, and asking questions along the way. We have some special guests. The special guests aren't going to be presenting per se. We really have them here for their expertise. They can help answer questions and bring some insights. So with that, I'm going to introduce the 4 special guests, and you can just say, just make sure y'all are on, and you can say hello. Andrew Saunders with ACC Central Services.
Good afternoon.
Suki Jansen with Solid Waste.
Hi, everybody.
Hey. Michael Songster with 100% Athens.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And Stacy Smith with Keep ACC Beautiful.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting me.
You're
Stacy.
very welcome. All right, next slide, please.
All right, hey everyone, I'm Ian Kara with Columbia. I'm your moderator, and I'm also going to go over a couple of quick housekeeping items for folks who are new to Zoom or the virtual meeting format. So Christina asked you to sign into the chat. So on the bottom of your screen, you got a chat button. And this is where you can go to type in any questions or comments too. If you haven't, just go ahead and put your name, email, organization in there. Next, this and the other sessions are being recorded. So if you prefer not to be shown on video, you can go ahead and mute your video. And the sessions are going to be posted to our website. So if you can't make it to one, don't worry, you can still catch it online. And that website is ndathensplanning.com. And we're going to be plugging that throughout the presentation. Next, this isn't going to be a very formal discussion, or it's not meant to be anyways. We want it to be a conversation, so you're able to mute and unmute yourself. So please feel free to unmute yourself and chime in to ask questions or make comments. You can do that non-verbally too. There's a raise your hand button if you click on the participants button at the bottom there next to the chat. And when that box pops up at the bottom of that, you'll see a little raise your hand button, and that'll let me or Christina or anyone on the team know that you would like to speak. There's also reactions, so you can send us a little emoji, thumbs up or thumbs down, or if all else fails, you can just wave us down and we'll see you and we'll call on you. So we've set aside about an hour for this discussion, so I'm gonna stop talking now. And I'm also controlling the slides, so if I'm going too fast and you want me to go back to an image or something, just say, Ian, go back. So I'm gonna turn it back over to the presenters now.
All right, thank you, Ian. First of all, we'd like to basically define the scope of where the area that we're studying. The redevelopment of Bethel Village and the Athens Housing Authority property across Hoyt Street, they're the catalyst for the redevelopment. But we are kind of enlarging the study area. We think it's really important to start looking at linkages, connections, especially things like traffic. That's affects more than just our sites. So the study area that we're looking at is from the railroad track. You can see along the bottom with the intersection of College Avenue, the historic train depot there. On the right-hand side, we're bounded by Pulaski Creek. So that's the edge on that side. Then we have Doherty Street running across the southern side and the eastern side of the site. The timeline that we're looking at, just real briefly to just give you a kind of a scale of where we are. Last December, the project was funded. In February, we had our first workshops, in-person workshops. We've been working from June to August. Now we're having our second workshop, virtual workshop. In September, next month, we're looking at having the draft conceptual plan. October and November is going to be refinement, revisions, review. And then we're looking at in December as having the final presentation to the mayor and the council. All right, really what I want to do now is just a real quick, brief update of the work we've done so far. I know we're on session 5 and there's been this review on a lot of them, and a lot of you were already at the session, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time with it. But in February, we got together. It was a real kind of hands-on workshop. We had a lot of discussions, presentations, broke out into groups, got back together, presented to the group as a whole. Next slide, please. Really what we were looking at in the workshop is what are the ideas and that the community has for the development, and what are the issues, good issues, bad issues. We developed a word cloud, which has the larger words for the issues that the community came up again and again. So community was a big one, downtown people, safety, school, affordability. We also did some tabletop mapping sessions. You can see on the right-hand side. Next slide, please. So after the February workshop, obviously COVID hit. So we had to shift everything to go virtual. So now we're actually in the process of the virtual workshop, but we also did the website, and we expanded it, and we have a lot more on the website. And that's really become our resource for communication back and forth with the community. So on the website, we have not only the whole first workshop, we're going to post the second workshop, all these virtual meetings. We also have a place for comments, discussion, and we will be posting things in the future. We also have surveys on there, and we'll be referring to some of the survey questions. So if you haven't gotten on there yet, we would really like for you to get on there, take a survey, and then come back later on once we have some of our site plans and initial planning ideas done, and comment. That's what we're looking for.
So just to make sure everybody's audio is working so that they're properly engaged, who has been to the website? Oh, I got some waves of hands. Okay. Who has completed a survey from the website? Oh, no hands. None. None. Okay. So please do. Oh, I got one from Ellen. Ellen did. Please share it for us. Thank you.
All right, after the first workshop, we got back to the office and started looking at kind of organizing the ideas and all the information that we have gathered. And we came up with 6 key issues. We were able to distill it down to 6 key issues. And those are the issues that have become the sessions that we have for the second workshop, for all of the sessions. So you can see them along the right-hand side. We've already done the complete streets, open space, civic places, transportation. Now we're in sustainability. Tomorrow morning, we're going to do art and history, and then we're going to do a final wrap-up session. So all of these sessions came from really the first workshop and the input from the community in that workshop.
I just want to add a note here. It's something I think we neglected to make clear is affordable housing and the preservation of what is there and the creation of more is an underlying tenet of the redevelopment. It is why SPLOST passed for this area. And so I just want to say that it's not mentioned because it's a given. We understood that going into the project. These are the ideas that came out of those initial meetings with residents and citizens outside of affordability. So sorry.
Hey,
No.
and the other thing is that, remember, this is all what if. This is all big ideas. Nothing is set in stone.
Right. So we started looking at a lot of different sketches, and like Brian said, just kind of what ifs. Nothing is really set in stone. We're still in the listening and learning phase of the project. So we want to get the input from the community back, and that's why we're having these sessions. We've kind of, right now, we've continued to develop some of the planning. So some of the ideas that from the previous workshop and that seem to be kind of really rising up is establishing a street grid. The project seems a little isolated right now, kind of off, tucked back behind College Avenue in between Pulaski Creek. So the idea of establishing a street grid to open it up, feel more connected to the neighborhood. The other ideas that came up were green spaces. And so we're still exploring what kind of green spaces. We're looking at large green spaces, a lot of smaller pocket parks, but that's one of the discussion points we have. The other thing that came up is mixed income housing. Like Christina said, we will have affordable and mixed income housing on site, and we're looking at mixed use programs.
Hey, and John, I'll add walkability and safety on College Avenue has come up again and again, right? About crossing it, and we've heard that over and over.
All right, so next slide. We're going to be moving into the sustainable and green strategies now, and I just wanted to see if anybody had any questions or comments on the previous work. Like I said, I know we're on session 5 and we've reviewed this before, so and some of y'all attended the session also. So if there are no questions, moderator, we will move on, and I'm going to let Madi start out the sustainable and green strategy part, and then we're going to be sharing and kind of going back and forth.
Hello,
And I'm
everyone.
so sorry. I just want to make sure that anybody feels comfortable speaking up as needed throughout. We can either wait to the end, but most of these sessions have been jump in with your questions or comments or thoughts, okay? Sorry, Madi, go ahead.
No. Hello, everyone. I'm Mahdi. So recently, there is an initiative in Athens called 100% Athens Renewable Energy Initiative. And they set a goal to transition to 100% clean and renewable energy by 2035. So we took that vision and we tried to look how we can implement this vision on our side. In this session, we will be exploring the neighborhood level sustainable strategies and try to answer how we can achieve these goals. Next.
Hey, Madi, you might need to speak up a little bit.
Okay.
It's real faint for me.
Okay. So when we're looking mainly to sustainability, we're looking into 2 levels. We're looking into the building level, and we're looking into the neighborhood scale at whole. So can you go next, Ian?
So these are some of the issues that come up on the building scale of green features. Water efficiency. So you're basically, a lot of these features are features that you're familiar with from your home. So like low flow shower fixture, low flow toilet, things that use less water. On the energy efficiency, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Energy Star, where you're looking at appliances that use less energy, refrigerators, dryers, etc. For the material selection, an example, sometimes with the materials, it's not what you use, but what you don't use. So we really try to use minimal amount of carpet, usually just in the bedrooms, because after every resident leaves, you would have to tear the carpet out and it ends up in a landfill. So we end up using vinyl flooring, wood flooring. And once again, that helps with both the cost when people move out, and it keeps things out of the landfill. Indoor air quality, I'm sure everybody's heard of low VOC paint. The other thing that's real important about the air quality is bringing in fresh outdoor air and ventilated air. Really what you're trying to do with the indoor air quality is prevent allergies, asthma, mold. So a lot of the indoor air quality issues are also health issues. These are, once again, these are just some of the building scale green features. We're not going to really focus on that today. We're going to look more at the bigger picture, the neighborhood green features. But I do want to point out that we are planning on every building in this redevelopment to be certified in a sustainable program. So the buildings themselves will be sustainable. We don't know which program, we don't know which level yet. We're still in discussions, but each building will be. And then what we want to discuss today is the larger scale neighborhood green features. Madi?
Go next.
I just wanted to shout out the chat from Laura Carter on the material selection. She said instead of vinyl, which off gases VOCs, could you use real linoleum, which is greener?
We could consider that, yes.
So as John said, today, this session, we meant to focus on the neighborhood scale strategies. And we put like 5 topics we will touch on. We'll be talking about the reducing the runoff and green spaces, renewable energies. We'll look at healthy communities. We'll look at recycling and composting. Next. So the first topic we will talk about is runoff reduction and water quality. And this is merely like the rain or storm water can potentially cause flooding either in our site or in adjacent site. So we're here mainly looking into 2 issues: reducing this runoff, and we already know this area facing a problem on flooding, and treating the pollution in the runoff. So I asked all the people here, can someone share with us what happened in the Basel village or around the area when there is a lot of rain or flooding? Where is the areas that most affected by that?
You guys had a big thunderstorm last night, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's our apartments. They're leaking from the ceilings, and even the bottom apartments, like on the lower level, they flood, and they flood very bad. Like the carpets are soaking, and it sets up mold and mildew, and it's hard to get to. I mean, it's horrible. So that's where it goes.
Yes, so thank you. So can I ask you, like, is there a particular street that you find, or connection you find a lot of flooding on it, or it's mostly affected by the rain?
Madi, this is Buck.
Yes, Buck.
One of the things we heard from the Athens Community Council on Aging was the flooding challenges at the intersection of Hull and Hoyt.
Yes, thank you. So
I just want to acknowledge, I'm sorry, I just feel like I need to acknowledge, Kiyoshon, that's not okay. And those are not conditions that anybody should be living in unit, in your apartment.
Yeah, we heard right there, right?
Up under the door. The rain comes up under the door when it rains.
Under the door when it rains. Okay.
So the runoff reduction is mainly dealing with this issue. We're trying to see ways how we can reduce that. So one of the strategies we looked at is bioswale, and the bioswale is alternative for underground stormwater system, but it's open and it has vegetation. So it decreases the runoff by absorbing the water and also filtering out the pollution through the vegetation. Another strategy is like green roofs, which also absorb the water and create a new opportunity for outdoor seating areas. the pervious parking is paving that allow water to go through it and decrease the runoff, comparing to impervious parking like concrete, which lead all the water to run outside of the site. We're also looking at opportunities to store the rainwater and reuse it in irrigation, for example. So this is the strategies we propose or we looked at. We want to hear from the special guests if they have anything else they want to add to these strategies.
This is Andrew Saunders. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I imagine these pictures are for illustrative purposes, and of course, I think any and all of these proposed treatments would be great. Two comments I have is on rainwater storage. I think there could be an opportunity to look at to scale that, significantly bigger than what's shown, of course, kind of go into almost like a Caribbean cistern type model for gray water uses. The other thing that I wanted to add that I would believe Buck's probably familiar with is, while I'm not familiar with the individual flooding challenges of this area, I do know that Pulaski Creek, which runs behind the Council on Aging and in which a substantial part of this site drains to, is subject to very high flows during storm events. And so we have trouble with bank stability in that area. So of course, anything we can do on the velocity side of things, or even just through the retention, to not contribute to that further would be appreciated.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
All right. Next slide, please.
One minute. Go ahead.
I wanted to speak on the water quality on the property. It's really bad. A lot of days the water is brown and we're afraid to drink it. So we're purchasing water, and I just wanted to speak on the water quality.
You're talking about in-unit water delivered inside your unit.
No, it's on the property. Like a lot of people experience the groundwater.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Kiyoshon, I just texted you. I'm going to follow up directly on some of these things.
Yeah, we need to follow that. Hey, you might point out, John, also green roofs. There's certain building types that kind of make sense for that, and there's some that don't. And like civic and other buildings may be better suited to those strategies.
Right. Yeah. A lot of residential multifamilies wood frame probably cannot handle the load for a green roof. But we were looking at the possibility of maybe on top of parking garages, and then on top of if there are other commercial type buildings, retail or things like that, that's where the opportunity for the green roof would come in at. Yeah, good point. All right, green spaces. What we're looking at now, once again, is the green spaces from a sustainable point of view. Some of these ideas and concepts kind of cross over from other sessions, like the community gardens. We've already been discussing that under when we were talking about green spaces and parks. But you can see from our map, we've already located it closer to the residents. Previously, we had it across College Avenue. But for the community gardens, we're looking at, for one, access to nutritional food. The other one is we often use them adjacent to or conjunction with senior facilities. We notice that there's a lot of interest in our senior residents to participate in the community gardens. It's also a great activity for them. It gets them out of their residence, out of the isolation, gets them into the community, gets them exercising out at the garden. So community gardens, what scale, what location, those are some of the questions, but that is something we are seriously looking at. Restoring habitat, what I wanted to point out, and I know we've been talking about Pulaski Creek, but and so that is obviously where the storm water really ends up flowing in that direction. And we've been talking with the civil about possible sustainable solutions, maybe reestablishing some of the habitat. Restoring the habitat is looking at indigenous plants and animals that are in the area or that are natural to the area, and looking at the creek as a place where we could look at restoring habitat, and it could help us with flooding.
I just want to pause on that and ask, anywhere else in Athens, have there been major, and given certainly what Andrew just mentioned about erosion issues in Pulaski Creek, what are the other areas that we might look to in Athens? Has this been done, a restoration of a stream bed that we can look at? No. Silence. Okay.
Quiet crowd tonight.
I think a lot of the creeks around UGA have had a lot of work done on them for restoring them, and like projects with Barrow Elementary and, you know, planting trees and removing invasives. I would look towards the creeks near UGA because there's been a lot of student and sustainability type. And I also wanted to mention with community gardens, where you've got it over on that corner, is there communication with the Council on Aging? They had a community garden and have done a lot of work on that. And I think one of the main things you need to think about with the community garden is, you know, it really needs someone that drives it and gets, even if you're looking at volunteers and residents taking care of it, if there's, you know, we see this a lot in school gardens, if there's not someone kind of spearheading work days and materials and kind of organizing plants and people, we see a lot of them just get very overgrown.
Yeah,
so
that's come up over, yeah.
I was just gonna
that's
say
come
the
up over
same.
and over again.
Great.
They have a great program at the Council on Aging and do a lot of work in it.
Right.
And we have some
Oh,
suggestions to look at historic Fourth Ward Park in Atlanta as an example, or Oconee River Network, and Sandy Creek Nature does cleanups and water quality checks, and it's like a buffer restoration project on the North Oconee at MLK in College.
All right, thank you. And yes, we totally agree with the community garden. It has to have a program. We've done them with our senior housing before, and you definitely have to have, you know, someone that come in and like you said, with the, you know, the tools, the planting, which plantings go when, and what we found is once you start creating that group, then the group can kind of be self-sustainable over time, but you have to get it started. Yes, definitely.
And the other thing we've heard over and over again in the earlier sessions was gardens closer to the residents. I mean, people really wanted them closer or maybe smaller, like, you know, we could have small gardens kind of scattered around. We heard that earlier, so.
The other thing we were talking about is shade trees. And we were talking about pedestrian friendly access, especially along College Avenue, and obviously no one really wants to walk when it's extremely hot outside and there's no shade. So this helps encourage pedestrian activity. We had also heard comments about playgrounds that are sitting out in the sun. They're not very much fun to play on in the middle of the day. So any kind of shade trees. The shade trees also, they help reduce the heat island effect. Which is basically all the concrete that's in the city basically starts to absorb the heat from the sun and maintains the heat. And so the shade trees help provide shade and reduce the heat island effect, which makes cities hotter than rural areas.
Yeah, we have a question from Michael in the comments about parking and shade trees. Do you want to go ahead and ask that, Michael?
Yeah, so I was just asking, there's going to be a lot of parking adjacent to the buildings, and so there's going to be a lot of parking lot trees. I don't know if it is feasible to put in slightly larger trees to get a few years closer to a mature canopy, because they seem to, parking lots are terribly hot for many, many, many years as the small trees struggle to get up and over and to shade them.
Sure. We could definitely look at larger trees.
Michael, I was going to say, I think what you're really getting to is the planting area that we allot for any kind of green space on the site, making sure you have tree wells that are actually of depth and size, appropriately sized, and we've got trees spec'd that are within your guidelines, but maybe something that that either grows faster or is larger at input.
I thought I heard just like larger caliber to start with as well.
Yeah, that's primarily what I was thinking. I mean, I don't know what the minimum caliper size for parking lot trees is, but they seem to be very, very small when they go in, and it takes so long for them to get up to actually to the point where they can shade the parking lot.
This is Andrew. I will offer the perspective that when we've done other downtown projects, we try to spec a 3 to 4 inch caliper tree for the reasons that Michael has mentioned. But if I had to pick between size and what Christina mentioned, which is really soil area, the long-term health and size of the tree is driven by that. So keep going down that path.
All right, great. The last element, sustainable element within green spaces, is we're looking at xeriscaping, which is basically plants that use very little or no water, and we would use it strategically. Obviously, there was some comments that people want lawns. They take a whole lot of water, but we could strategically place the lawns and reduce the size of the lawns, incorporating xeriscaping and in other landscaped areas. So I guess before we move out of green spaces, are there any more comments or questions? Anybody want to jump in?
Yeah, I wanted to know if there was any way that you could preserve the trees that are located on the Bethel property. There are a lot of mature trees and they're beautiful.
There are some really big ones. Keyshawn, after you've mentioned that.
Yes.
And, 2 weeks ago.
We're in the process of getting a tree survey started to actually know where they are, so that we can do the best we can. Realistically, not every tree can be saved, and sometimes not every tree should be saved. Yeah. Well, we have this one pecan tree over here that I'm sure that all of the residents would agree that that we would love to save, because it's just something that we've done since we were children. We've always come back to this property and we pick pecans off that tree during the holidays. So it's just, one to keep in mind.
I think that it's so after we talked about it, I actually walked it and looked at some of those larger trees there. I think you're right. There's definitely some really big ones. Unfortunately, they are right next to a lot of the buildings. But I think that's certainly something to think about. Anytime we can, we try to design around trees, but making sure that there's some canopy, some shade, and that to the extent that we have any specimen trees, for example, taking a look at those.
Yeah, I'd heard from an earlier session, we have moon trees on our site. The seed went been back and forth, and we can have more moon trees. The other thing is we would definitely look at maintaining the trees that are adjacent to the street or close by the street, because working with the topography, you're leaving the street as it is, and those are great trees to incorporate into the design. All right, next item. Here, I guess this came from the survey. Once again, we have the survey that's online, and this is the information that came up. So the community garden, if you look at the people that said yes and maybe, you're looking at almost 84% of the people that have filled out the survey would look at, entertaining working in a community garden. That's quite a high number of people. And so that, once again, that is something we would like to look at and explore further.
One of the things also we looked at is renewable energy. We're trying to find how we can produce natural sources of energy. We looked at different strategies, and we found the solar panels are the most applicable to our site or our context. So it's good because it's reducing the energy cost, and it's very low maintenance. And one of the advantages also is you can see here from the picture the different uses of the solar panel. So you can use it in buildings or even in carports, parking, or even like all the street lighting will be lit only by solar panels. So this is what we thought about the renewable energy. Is anyone want to add more or give us more direction what we should look at more?
I know we have some folks interested in solar on the call, so.
So I don't know to the extent of what capacity solar is going to be able to be installed, but it seems as though every building should be prepared for that to happen, that there should be roof space that's dedicated, that's oriented in the proper direction. We're not, basically building solar ready buildings, whether or not the solar gets installed or not. And I think the conversation will still be ongoing in terms of the community's role, and there is the renewable energy project out there, as well as other SPLOST money that could potentially be used for this, and 100% Athens is very interested in that being part of this project. I think we're very excited about that possibility. So making sure that even in buildings where solar may not go, that solar can be placed there later, that we don't have a lot of roof obstructions. I think Andrew may have mentioned the idea of master metering buildings so that the integration to the grid is much easier with the renewable energy. And then the other part of this, which, and maybe you're going to get to this, is electric vehicles are going to be more and more a possibility moving forward. And so providing infrastructure for charging stations, even if the charging stations aren't there now, I think, is something that should be considered.
Great point. We had left out charging stations, and we have done that on projects where there's a few charging stations, but then there's also the infrastructure provided that spaces can be converted to charging stations in the future. And it's a lot cheaper to do when you're doing it under construction than waiting until it's already built and then trying to add them. Great point.
Next slide. So sustainable communities are healthy communities. We are looking to ways not only to think about the environment, but
this is broader Flanagan here, the neighborhood leaders and community advocate. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Can you speak up?
Hello, can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Roger,
No.
we're having some trouble hearing you.
Hello, hello.
Go ahead and keep talking. Let's see if it goes out.
Connection may be bad.
Yeah, Broderick, your connection is not good. This is Rick.
Yeah,
You may want to try
speak
calling.
up. Maybe we'll be able to hear you.
I'm gonna try to come back into the conversation. I'm gonna try to log out and then come
No,
back
you
in.
sound
No.
good now.
We hear you good now.
It's cool now? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you sound good now, Broderick.
All right, sorry about that. So yeah, I was trying to kind of speak to some of the work that's happening parallel to this project. I've been speaking with some people that were that formed a subcommittee to the 100% Athens work, and we've been trying to have conversations about jobs in the solar industry and solar field. We know that Athens is trying to move towards 100% renewable energy, so we're trying to train people from communities like Bethel and other communities to be prepared for those coming jobs in that industry. So I guess making sure that the residents in the area now and future knows about those type of career opportunities. We're still kind of putting together the pieces of what that training is going to look like, what the program will look like, where the funding will come from. Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, Roderick, we can
Yes.
hear you. It is just breaking up a bit, but I think I hear you saying that you're a subcommittee of the 100% Athens and looking to develop job training around solar installations.
Correct.
Awesome. So we need to connect. I have your number from one of the previous calls. But I think in general though, is this something, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you clearly. Like, is that something that's funded that we could help advertise to residents now or facilitate that?
No, that's what I was trying to explain. And they probably kept cutting them out back and forth, but we're trying to identify funding sources and partners to help with that work. You know, we have some partners in place already, but we're kind of working to put together what the actual program will look like. So those conversations are ongoing, like right now. It's happening parallel to this work.
Okay.
Great point.
Yeah, because those are going to be good jobs with good benefits, hopefully. So, yeah.
Yeah, and if you're moving towards 100% renewable energy, you're moving that direction, which is going to create the jobs. You know they will, because if you're going to have 100% renewable by 2035. Any other questions on the renewable energy? We did look at some other options like geothermal and things. The rock will, in the area, probably prevent that. We did kick around some other options, but solar seemed to be really the best. And it's also what we're trying to show in the photos is it's flexible. So, I mean, in a parking lot, you could put, solar panels. For the street lights, you could put solar panels. And then once again, like we were discussing, even if you don't put them in the buildings, prepare the buildings so in the future they could be added.
This is Andrew again. Sorry to jabber so much, but one thing to consider kind of along the lines of the electric vehicle readiness, where the infrastructure is there, but we might not justify all the capital expense at the get-go, is some of the residencies, you may want to set aside space for energy storage, which is becoming increasingly cost competitive. Georgia Power did a pilot project in Atlanta on some affordable multifamily homes where they paired solar plus storage, with the whole concept being that the occupants of those buildings would have some resiliency features like heating and cooling, or not heating and cooling necessarily, heating and cooking, refrigeration, lights. So really that comes down to being sure that we have a little bit of space in the individual units and structuring the panels appropriately.
All right, thank you.
I have one more comment about renewable energy on site, is that one of the great benefits obviously is cost stabilization of energy, as well as cost reduction, especially in the future for energy. And I think it would be important that whatever agreement, however that is structured, that there is pass-through where residents enjoy some of those benefits, that they just don't go to the developer and building owner. Even though clearly there's some advantage to that, but I think that having people, buy-in is it's important for people to actually see the benefit of it, the financial benefit of it.
Sure. And the other thing with sustainable buildings, which we're planning on all the buildings to have a certificate of sustainability, is they will be using less energy. They're going to have higher levels of insulation. Appliances will use less energy. So the buildings themselves will be efficient and use less energy as they are.
I think it's an interesting point and a valid one, and I just want to kind of acknowledge it, that the entire context of talking about sustainability, it is not just for the checking the box sustainability. You got a lot of folks on this call that I think have careers dedicated to it. But I also want to note that it is for creating a healthier community in general. I think that the language, since I used to work in the industry directly, has evolved, and it's resilience and it's healthy communities, and it's all kind of intertwined together. But it is for the benefit of the folks that live there now, but also that will live there. And so I just want to say that out loud and note that within context, the sustainability conversation cannot and should not exclude anyone that's going to be a future resident of the redeveloped area.
So as Christina said now about healthy communities.
Perfectly.
Oh, I didn't even know. There you go.
So we're looking how we can promote the healthy lifestyle in the community, and sustainable communities are healthy communities. So we're looking at walkability and looking at social engagement, about having access to healthcare, and there is a lot of relation between other topics. For example, when we talk about the community garden, it's related to having access to healthy food, the shedding trees, also like encourage people to walk. So all the strategies are falling to create a healthy community or a healthy lifestyle. So we're here, one of the strategies we are looking how we can design a comfortable sidewalks that are safe and encourage people to walk in by making them interesting. So people will be walking through a retail area or like crossing a pocket park, or always having interesting thing along the way that encourage people to walk more. We're also looking, and we talked about this a lot in the first session, about bicycle friendly lanes, how we can design a safe lanes for bikers, and how to encourage the physical activity of these people. We're looking for designing places for social engagement, and we are mainly looking here for the issue of isolation and its effect on mental health, and mainly on the senior, they stay a lot of time, majority of their time inside. So how we can encourage people to go outside and meet the community and connect more with their community. So another thing, most of you are familiar with Athens Neighborhood Clinic. So our intention is to maintain and potentially expand this clinic, and really looking at ways how we can make it very accessible or easy to access from all points in the site. So as I said, there is a lot of strategies we can look at. This is what we touch base on here. So I want, like, is anyone want to give more opinions or ideas what we can do more?
We had a question on plans for bike parking and storage.
Thanks again.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was just commenting on that. That relates to some of our transit conversations, and we talked about bike sharing, incorporating, and getting bicycles into usage in this community. So we will definitely plan for some of that.
You know, I think I do want to bring this up. Kiyoshon, you and I were talking about this last week too, right? Like right now you're hauling your bike up to your unit. There's no covered, secure parking.
Yeah, so we're just kind of sticking them inside of our utility closet, which it has just extra space, and it has the hot water heater and the other thing.
Right.
And it's just full of bikes, and I mean, it's nowhere to put them. There's no space inside of the apartments really, and we lack storage space.
I think storage space in general in the units, when we get to talking about, you know, vertical needs and green building and just in general amenities and resident preferences, that's something. But I think to really create this bicycle friendly, to really make a bike a reasonable transportation option or a reasonable choice for health, you know, for exercise, you know, you got to have it covered and you got to have it secured. And that shouldn't be in your closet in your unit, I don't think. I don't know, maybe there's some folks on here that live in more urban areas than I do, and that's what you do.
It's also an issue with some of the residents leaving their kids' bikes outside and they're waking up and their bikes are stolen. So
yeah,
it's more reasonable, especially on the property.
But it's against the rules of the lease to put anything in your storage closet.
Oh, on the lease it says you're not supposed to put anything in the storage closet?
Anything, no matter.
I imagine. Well, I'll be quiet about that. I think that there was another conversation I wanted to ask y'all about maybe having for healthy communities and talking about it, that having a space for kids to ride their bikes on site that were not, wasn't in a parking lot. Like a track, like a little, like a.
Yeah, some of the kids are actually riding their bikes on the sidewalks because they're not allowed to ride on the grass, and it's only just this little space where they can actually ride, but there are picnic tables there, which really restrict them from having as much fun as they could be having. So it's just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's just
I think that's real important because, you know, I mean, kids have wheels, right? I mean, bicycles, roller skates, you know.
Scooters now.
Skateboards, you know. So yeah, they need access, and you don't necessarily want them in the bike lanes, right? But you want them to be able to play with their, you know, wheels in a safe place. So yeah, I think that's something to definitely consider. I did want to point out one thing from the surveys that we conducted on site is one of the things is that the seniors just stay in their unit a lot, and there is a sense of isolation. They don't once they get out, because there's so much topography on the site. They're uncomfortable even just walking to the bus stop or walking to the council for aging. So I think that's one thing, is to consider seniors, and once again, the healthiest thing for them is to kind of get them out, get them involved in the community, get them, whether it's, you know, the community gardens or in a park or something where they feel safe, because you know, it was pointed out a lot of them are on walkers or canes, or, you know, not so much a wheelchair so much, but just they need help, or they need places that they can walk that are senior friendly.
They actually sit out often, like out by the dumpsters, because this is the only place that provides shade for them, like where they live. And they're separated from this property. But I mean, they even complain about some of the youth. So something that's separated from a lot of kids, because most of the elderly, they want quiet. They appreciate it, you know, and they don't have it. They just don't have it. There's nowhere that's not smelly, full of flies, that they can just sit and get some sort of peace.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. I think we might have had some survey.
Yes.
Yes, here we are.
Yeah. So about the health clinic, we asked the community if they want to see, or the health clinic to stay at that place, and almost 80% of the people say they wanted to be here. And we also asked about the physical activity, what people will use biking for. So we're looking at 50% of the people, they will use it for recreational use or transportation or both. So people are like, they want more opportunity to go outside and do more activities. So this is very, very like encouraging result to look how we can further that more. Yes.
All right, this is the last topic of sustainable at a neighborhood scale. Once again, I want to be respectful of everybody's time, so we're going through this a little quickly, but I did just want to point out that Athens does have a recycling program. A lot of the cities we work in do not have it. you know, or they might have it, but it's not for multifamily. So we are looking at obviously taking advantage of recycling on all the different parcels of land. When we were doing some research into Athens recycling, we also noticed that there's recycling stations. So these are kind of neighborhood nodes where people can bring their recycling in, I guess, if they have like a lot of it, or if they don't have opportunity to recycle in their neighborhood. So that is something I think might be interesting to incorporate the kind of not just recycling for us, but kind of thinking outside a recycling station for the larger community.
Can we just ask, do we have someone, is it Suki on here?
I'm here. Yeah. I would like, hey, I'm here. I do have a couple ideas. Everybody always thinks about trash and recycling as an afterthought, and we have yet to have a good enclosure. I'm going to call, instead of calling it a dumpster enclosure, let's call it an eco station, where we have a facility that doesn't look like a dumpster enclosure, even has maybe a slanted top with a green roof or a place for additional solar panels. We have trash in there, we have recycling in there, you have a water source to keep it clean so it doesn't smell, and also maybe an art component to the actual building. The more you can do on the front end to prevent illegal dumping around dumpster enclosures is out of control in Athens. So if we can design these stations, these eco stations, and also I've seen them in other communities where you have the waste component, but you also have bike storage connected to it. If you have solar panels on top, you could even have lighting inside safely, and maybe even control panels to limit access to only those folks that need into the waste side versus the bike side. And so I would really like to see I would like to see this as a model, and not in a dumpster enclosure, but actually somebody that's put thought around this so you can't get in there. You wouldn't want a legal dump around there. People want to go in there and place recyclables and trash. I know it sounds weird. And composting. We don't even have to have, I mean, I agree with a composting area like pictured here, but we actually have compost pickup as well. And so I think we need to plan for more space than less. And then it would be awesome to have an adjoining space to these eco stations, that we could place a trailer for a swap shop, or our charm pickup. We could help come in maybe a certain amount of times during the month, or even a spot where we could park the tool shed trailer. I think. Okay,
wait, whoa. You've got so many ideas. I'm gonna back up to one. This is amazing. No, I mean, I'm like, I want to move to Athens. So you have compost already, compost pickup?
We do have commercial composting pickup in our community that our department actually is doing right now, and we've got approval for a full-time employee. I think we have to wait for about 6 months to hire that employee, but we'll have a full-time employee dedicated to commercial collections. So yes, we already have about 30 customers, or they're all commercial customers, where we physically go around, and they're mainly restaurants, but where we physically pick up compostables. So I would like to see that planned for as well, you know, in some way, shape, or form. But
that's cool.
Anyway,
okay.
And like I said, I don't know if people caught my second. I think at least in one space in this area, it'd be awesome to have just a space where we could pull up a trailer, or maybe we could use some funding to, we already have KCCB is in our department. They have a tool shed trailer. Maybe that could be a space that we use that tool shed trailer there. We have charm trailers. We've talked about rewrapping some trailers we have. Maybe this would be the trial place where if it was adjacent to our eco stations already, we could drop it certain days of the month, and those residents could drop off charm items, Center for Hard to Recycle Material items, or we've even talked about having some of those items that people drop could actually be swapped instead of thrown away or taken to the charm or appropriately disposed of. Somebody else might want that. So maybe there would be times where we could staff that there at this facility, because this facility, this Bethel, is going to be really close to our current charm. So I think there could be some synergies there. And then one last thing, you guys are talking about a lot of outdoor space in an area where we get a tremendous amount of litter already. And I think we need to be really pointed and look at it on the front end instead of the back end. Cluster bins, trash, recycling bins with pet waste stations, if there's going to be more pets in that area. We already have a lot of issues with pet waste downtown. So it'd be nice to be proactive and not reactive. I hate to say it, but every developer in Athens that I've worked with they're always reactive when it comes to dumpster enclosures. They end up not having enough space. They look awful, and they don't put any thought into it. It's the last thing they think about, and then they panic because they didn't leave enough room for it to begin with. And so I would love to be able to drive people to this location and show what an appropriate, or maybe even a model, and not call it a dumpster enclosure, and keep it where people don't want to dump there, and couple it with arts, couple it with that bike shelter, couple it with Wi-Fi for whatever. I mean, there are so many ideas around the United States and around the world I can share when I'm not in the office, and probably will not be till sometime next week, but I have a collection of pictures from other areas. We were trying to do this and are still trying to do some eco stations downtown. That's where we got a lot of these ideas.
So I want to go ahead and just directly, not to give Ian more work, but Ian, can she email you directly? Can we get that up on our Dropbox?
Absolutely.
Pictures? Okay. You can share information. Okay, great. I just want to make sure we're capturing some of this, Suki. This is amazing.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm just chiming in late, but that's about all I have. I think I covered everything. I tried to talk fast, but that's what I have.
I love this eco station idea. I think that's definitely very cool.
But when you said clustering, just clarify for me. I mean, I think about triangulation or whatever words we want to put to it, of like you put things together where people actually want to go. But you're saying putting the trash and the recycling together, but also making sure that there's pet waste stations there.
Yeah, I think the best that we.
And do you prefer fewer and bigger, or is there like spread out?
Fewer and bigger are easier. Fewer and bigger are easier, and you can make the trash and I always think you need to marry trash and recycling bins. If you don't marry them, they don't do well single. You know, they get trashed when they're single. Either trash goes in the recycling or recycling goes in the trash. So for pedestrian traffic in this area, I think you need to have all the bins look the same, and maybe some color coded, or it could be another art component. Maybe we look at that and they match or have some sort of play off what the eco stations look like, so that it triggers, hey, that's where my trash goes, or recycle when I'm walking around. And so I think, you know, we've got a tremendous, I travel the United States quite frequently. I'm in Alaska right now, and there's some great examples of art bins across the United States where people have really made it look good, but still be effective and stand out. You know, I don't encourage trash and recycling bins to blend in with the scenery. If it blends in with the scenery, it gets lost. People don't even realize they're there. I think they need to look like trash and recycling, but they can be fun, and they can be, you know, an art component that matches these eco stations somehow, so it triggers, hey, that's where my trash and recycling go. And so it'd be also awesome, I think here, this is an education component, is once this is up and running, is having some, you know, waste volunteers there, or, you know, like a core group of people that work with our department, but are volunteers in the area that help answer questions. They can be part of our we have recycling coordinators at the county level, and I think this would be a fantastic area to do like a pilot where we get the community members interested and help us with educating people about what can be recycled, what can be composted, and then when we're going to be there for the charm. Maybe it's that we drop the trailer there and there's some community members. Maybe in the future we had some money, you know, somehow we could pay those community members to staff that trailer, like these Goodwill trailers that you see. Maybe we have that, and it's like, so maybe we have community members staffing that for us, and they're getting paid to staff that, and the only thing that staff has to do is pull the trailer back and forth. So I think there are a lot of ideas, and I apologize that I'm the last person to speak, but I've been trying to be mindful and not talk and I tried to write down my ideas before I spoke. So that's what I have.
Suki will definitely follow up. We gotta know all these ideas. They're awesome.
Yeah, we definitely want to follow up, Suki.
Yeah. So who wants to follow that? Any other ideas?
I thought this slide was going to be the worst slide in the presentation.
You didn't know you were so excited about composting. I actually love composting, Suki, so I'm interested.
Hey, I'm trashy. I dig trash, so I'll go to mute now.
All right. Well, you know, like we said, we asked people to kind of interrupt us during the presentation. It was supposed to be more active, not just the presentation, and we're happy y'all did. But now we're at the end. I guess if there was anybody that had any kind of questions that they didn't want to interrupt or felt it was like not the time or any other idea, jump in right now. This is a question and answer time, and we have our special guest here also that can help us kind of guide and enlighten us.
Did we miss anything?
I have a question. I know we weren't talking about building level sustainability at this point primarily, but is the intention that these buildings would be all electric? Is that even feasible for buildings of this scale? I'm a residential builder. We do, homes all the time that are all electric, but I'm not sure if that's something that gets done in multifamily.
Yes, it is done in multifamily.
Well, the simple way to explain it is yes. And when we took down the old Jack R. Wells Paldo public housing project, it was primarily natural gas, and Brookside is all electric and totally green.
So one certification, I think we mentioned it. I think that obviously when we get closer to actual vertical structures, we'll be getting into the nitty gritty. But one thing I wanted to mention is that to the extent that the entire neighborhood, I don't know if it'll be the entire planning area or particular components of it, gets a community-wide certification, it's our intention to require within that any new buildings to certify green. And so I just wanted to make sure that was clear. I know John had mentioned that they were going to be certified green. We are looking at LEED ND and just trying to figure out maybe the most applicable program that will provide a good framework and hold everyone accountable on the sustainability side.
Yeah, we actually just, Columbia Residential in New Orleans, we did a platinum LEED senior housing. It was one of the first, I think the first on kind of west of the Mississippi, which was really fun, a project and very, very sustainable.
Barely east of the Mississippi.
I think it also would be great to see some sort of energy benchmarking besides just sustainability, because you can go through, third-party certifications, and even though I don't think it would be your intent to avoid the energy components of that, but to have some sort of benchmark where a certain amount of, the energy use is going to be, some percentage below some standard, so that there is at least a significant amount of that, the points that you're getting in your third-party certification that come from the energy component.
So Michael, my background, and I actually, two of us worked at Southface for a long time. And so we hear you loud and clear on that point. And that is actually, my team will probably laugh because I'd asked for weeks, what's our solar goal? What's our energy goal? I just need a goal. I need a framework. I need something to hold on to. So I think you were heard loud and clear. We don't know what that will be yet, and we're looking for some help in establishing that baseline and how we get there.
So if there are no more questions, I was going to follow up once again with our website. You can, if you think of something tonight or you think of something tomorrow, please feel free to add. So here we are. Here's our schedule. We're at the 5th session, end of Friday. We've been through 5. We have 2 more. Tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, art and history. We're really excited about that. And then the final session at noon, which is basically a summary of the 6 sessions and then where we're heading. Next. Once again, just if you have time, www.ndathensplanning.com. It has all the information that we've done in the past. It has the surveys, which we want more and more people so we can get more information. And then, like I said, come back in a month or so, and we're going to start having plans that you can start commenting on.
In the meantime, you can always add any thoughts or ideas on the website at any time going forward.
Great. I want to thank everybody for coming, for participating. And I know a lot of y'all have been attending the other sessions too. We appreciate that also. And we hope y'all are participating tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. For our art and history session. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, thanks everybody. Great discussion.